months ago, I made a video about how the world's poorest president is dying, everyone. Uruguayan ex-president known for having cheap car. That's how I get you people to click, and it didn't work. It only got 16,000 views. I talk about like serious matters as if like, man has cheap car. Well, I mean, it was announced. He announced that he was dying, and he died this past week. So that's the video basically. There's not much to talk about because it was pre-announced. Kind of. Everyone knew it was coming. He was very old. You know, he was he almost 90? And yeah, he died. It was very sad. You might know him from being poor, having cheap car. His story is pretty crazy. He went from being like an urban guerrilla leader to like being held hostage by the dictatorship that threatened to kill him and his compatriots over and over for like 10 years, to being released, to forming a legal political party, to becoming a borderline neoliberal who, to be clear, his faction of the Frente Amplio coalition is one of the least radical. Like, out of all the parties within it, they are the second or third least radical party within it. What a downfall. He also caused a lot of issues in that he refused to allow to like remove immunities and stuff from military people who had massacred people during the dictatorship, because in doing so, he would have opened himself and his friends up for prosecution because of their guerrilla actions during the same dictatorship. So, yeah, I mean, he was a lot more complicated than people think. Out of like the Frente Amplio presidents, he was the worst one, in my opinion. But he's mostly known outside of Uruguay for the image of like, you know, he legalized weed, he supported gay rights, and like, what an interesting story, you know, from urban guerrilla leader to president. So there's, I guess he kind of got like a reason on the world stage for people to know what Uruguay is. Aside from like Luis Suarez ate the ear, that's good at least, right? Mike Tyson and Luis Suarez, brothers for life. As far as I know though, Luis Suarez hasn't raped. So he's got that going for him, which is nice. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, there's really not much to say about here because I basically said everything there was to say about this fella in the previous video that I made on him. This is like a follow-up where I'm just basically saying it happened. It happened. He lasted 4 months after announcing that he was dying. There you go. Uruguay's current president is not a left-winger. You guys are so fucking easy to fucking dupe. So let me tell you about the Frente Amplio. The Frente Amplio is the left-wing, supposedly left-wing coalition in Uruguay. It is totally dominated by a party called the Movement for Popular Participation, which is the MPP. The MPP was born out of the Tupanos, which was an urban guerrilla movement who fought the dictatorship. They got famous because of that, and the clout they got from that allowed them to dominate the actual electoral movement that formed and became very prominent after the dictatorship fell. They are the least radical part of this party. Okay, no, there's worse people. There's outright open social democrats. These guys are social democrats who don't call themselves social democrats, okay? Which is in some ways worse. They are welfare neoliberals who are okay with weed and gays and have fostered for themselves an international image as far left, because in terms of foreign policy, they align themselves with like other left-wing movements in Latin America. And because in that coalition, the Frente Amplio, there are like communists and socialists and stuff. But the communists and socialists are relatively small and marginalized compared to them. So that's the actual situation. The only good thing about Uruguayan politics is not so much those guys. It's that the left-wing coalition is so strong and powerful that the right wing cannot be that right wing. Like, Uruguayan elections are between like, it's like having an election, like the right wingers are like Barack Obama, basically. Legit. Like, they're like Barack Obama. Like Barack Obama, but homophobic. Okay? That is like, I mean, it's better than what most countries have in their electoral systems. Don't get me wrong. It's way better. Like, the right wing can't get away with being like extremists in Uruguay because the left wing is so overwhelmingly popular that they have to try to appeal to their voters somehow. So what you get are like people who like talk like they're like woke, not really woke, not as the Democrats do, but they are basically like American Democrats in terms of economic policy and stuff like that. And then like the supposedly left-wing party are sort of like, you know, I guess welfare neoliberals is a good way to put it, because they ultimately don't really do anything to fundamentally change the like economic system, but they are for more redistribution and state projects and stuff. But they always fall short of like any real large-scale systemic reform. Like, they will come down on the right side geopolitically, except on Israel, of course, because they have to appeal to like the local Jewish voters. Same thing as in Argentina. So they'll be more wishy-washy on that. But aside from that, they'll usually be on the right side geopolitically, and they'll just sort of do their own thing. And the mere fact of their existence at least ensures that Uruguay, being a real right-winger, is just straight up a non-starter. Like, the previous right-wing government in Uruguay was totally unable to do most of the shit they really wanted to do. even though they were terrible because of that. Because there's no fucking way they could ever hold power unless they manage to sway. Like they basically have to be like, we'll do what those guys say, but trust us. Like classical liberalism can do it better. And Pepe Mujica, in spite of his international image as like a left-wing radical, was a president from those guys, from that party, from that part of the Frente Amplio, the MPP. So not quite as radical as is often framed as. In fact, all of the other pink-tied presidents, even Lula, was not much more, but more left than he is. Every single one of them, even Lula during his first term. And Lula was like the most neolib of all of them, aside from him. But yeah, like the one good thing that Uruguay has is that the state companies are basically off limits, though this could change soon because, you know, Uruguay is influenced quite a lot by Argentina and what's happening there. But as of now, they have like state telephone company, they have like state electricity, still stuff like that, but who knows how long that'll last if like the Milei influence is allowed to fester and infiltrate over there. Anyway, that's my lecture on Uruguayan politics. Now give me all your money.